Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending this virtual congressional briefing on kinship care, brought to you by the Congressional Research Institute for Social Work and Policy. And we have an outstanding panel who will discuss these issues today, led by our moderator, Dr. Angelique Day, an associate professor at the University of Washington in Seattle, who is becoming a nationally renowned expert in the field of child welfare. She is our legislative director at CRISP, and she's a member of many child welfare panels and organizations, but the one that's closely related to our subject today is the Grand Families and Kinship Support Network. It's a national technical assistance center funded through a 5-year cooperative agreement with the United States Department of Health and Human Services. And she's also a lead evaluator for 5 federally funded programs at the Children's Bureau. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Dr. Angelique Day.
Thank you, Charles. It's an honor to be with you today and an honor to be a moderator on this distinguished panel. I have the great privilege of introducing our speakers for today. So first, we are going to set the stage with Kathleen Kramer, who is a managing attorney of the Family Advocacy Unit at Community Legal Services in Pennsylvania. And the rest of our panel is bringing you lived experience in the system as either a kinship caregiver, a bio-parent, or a young person. So after Kathleen speaks, you're going to hear from April Lee, who is a peer parent advocate in the Family Advocacy Unit at Community Legal Services. And then following April, you're going to hear from Gisela Marquez Lee. She is a kinship caregiver in Washington State and is currently caring for her grandchildren and has recently become licensed as a foster caregiver. And last but not least, you're going to hear from our 2 distinguished young people representing the National Foster Youth Institute, which include Robert Romero and Amanda Judson. And with that note, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored to speak before this group. I've been the managing attorney of the Family Advocacy Unit at Community Legal Services of Philadelphia for several years now, and I've spent 15 years representing parents in the child welfare system using a holistic family defense practice, bringing together wraparound support for parents who are in the child welfare system. And what I will say for sure that I've seen in the 15 years that I've been doing this work is the intergenerational impact of child welfare system interventions. As we've been learning in the child welfare system and moving forward in policy progress, one thing that we have learned for sure is that caring for a child means that we must care about their connections. We, all of us, are wired to find connection and belonging in the context of our families. And we see that time and again with children in the child welfare system. When we are able to get children into kinship placements, into placements that support their need for love and belonging in the context of their own families, the data tells us that they do better and better. So what are the benefits of kinship care? We see reduced trauma from family separation. We see stronger connections among family members. We see better mental and behavioral health outcomes for children. We see educational stability. We see placement stability, children staying in one home rather than moving from foster home to foster home. And we see better permanency outcomes. So all of our data is telling us what we all know from the science, which is that children have a need for love, belonging, and connection in the context of their own families. And we know far too much at this point to continue on our path of separating families and ignoring family ties for children. But we are not moving the needle as quickly as we need to if we care about kids. Given all that we know, our data and stories from impacted families tell us we're not doing enough. In 2008, we passed the Fostering Connections Act. That was an act designed to get more kids with their families and keep them in their own families. And since then, and since 2008, we've moved the needle only slightly. Still in America today, most children who are taken from their parents are placed with people that they don't know. Just to give you a point of comparison, 9% of exits from foster care are to emancipation, also known as aging out for youth. And only about 10% of exits are to guardianship, to being with a stable guardian from your own family for the rest of your life. So kids are almost as likely to age out of our system to nothing than to be placed in guardianship with their own families. We know that children in the child welfare system are no different than any other children. They have families, their families love them, and we must see their families and connect them to their families if we want to help these children. So what's happening? Why aren't we moving the needle? Well, we see over and over again in our practice every day situations in which everyone on a case knows that it's the best thing for a child to be placed in a particular kinship placement, but outdated laws become insurmountable barriers. So one thing that we see frequently is old criminal records keeping families apart. So we see relatives with decades-old convictions being kept from caring for grandchildren, from nieces, from nephews, from cousins. Even when we know these are safe caregivers, we still have one-size-fits-all policies that keep children apart from their families. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that we are also perpetuating intergenerational harm and racial injustice when we see families at the intersection of mass incarceration and the foster system being kept apart as a result of old records. In addition to the challenges getting kids into those kinship placements, we also see permanency challenges with kids not being given the opportunity to have guardianship with their own families. We know that families want guardianship and it's an appropriate outcome for families. And still in practice, we see agencies forcing families into permanency arrangements that don't meet their needs or threatening to separate children from families who prefer guardianship to adoption. We also see bureaucratic red tape keeping families from accessing the guardianship assistance program. I'm so honored to be here today to listen to the voices of lived experience. And also, I just want to say I feel a lot of optimism in this moment because I know that we can do better. Interventions that take children away from everyone that they know and love are harming children. We have to do better for children today. We can move toward a system that centers and values and elevates family connection. I am incredibly grateful to Representative Bass for introducing legislation to help us finally move the needle on keeping kids with their own families. I'm grateful that she is looking into getting rid of outdated licensing requirements that bar kinship parents who can provide love and safety for children. I'm also grateful that she's clearing a path for families who want guardianship. We know families want guardianship as a permanency outcome, and we know it's an effective outcome for children. So I am encouraged by this legislation. I thank Representative Bass for taking on this very important issue at this time. And I would like to turn it at this point back to Dr. Day.
Thank you, Kathleen. We are so appreciative for your words and starting us off today. We're now going to hear from our birth parent lived experience voice, April Lee.
Hey guys, my name is April Lee. I'm a parent advocate in the Family Advocacy Unit. I am a parent who's been through this system personally, both as an adult and as a child. But I'm also in a unique position to help parents navigate the child welfare system through my experiences. But I'm grateful to be able to be on this panel and grateful to see so many people with lived experience. It's like more lived experience than professionals. And I'm like, yes, like we're getting there. But also recognizing that I was saved, honestly, by guardianship. If it wasn't for my family the people who took my children in, I would have never seen my children again. I don't. I'm not disillusioned at all, with knowing and now working in a child welfare system that my case would have went very differently, if my family didn't push for no, we're not taking her rights. Like April's going to get herself together and get her children back. And all three of my children that was taken are currently home right now, safe. I currently own my home. I'm working for a law firm. So it's to me, it's kind of a little bit insane to say that someone don't have the ability to change, or uh, because a parent might make a bad choice, or in my case have a substance abuse issue, that they're never going to get it together to the point to where they should have their children back, or that they can't be with family. Like those connections is something that I don't personally take for granted, and it's insane to me that I would never. I don't know. Maybe after this briefing, things might change, but as it stands now, I can never be a kinship provider because of my record. Yes, I have a record. Yes, I've done some things in my past that I speak openly about. But who I was 7 years ago and 10 years ago is not who I am today. Like, I'm actually addressing you guys from a law firm, that fight for parents. Like, in my wildest dream, I'm like, who would have known? But it shows that people have the capacity to change. People have the capacity to grow, and we don't have to continually count out families because of a mistake that they may have made, or because of a phone call that someone may have called on them, to completely take our children away. Um, it's hard to deal with. It also like fires me up to the point to where this is my passion. Like, this is my duty, recognizing that how many of our children will be taken, how many of our children will be removed from their families, removed from their communities, and we know the outcomes. Like, the data is there, and I'm so grateful that we didn't spend a whole bunch of time on data, because it's frustrating sometimes, because the data is there, the evidence is there, the outcomes of children aging out is there. Like, our children are higher with PTSD, like higher in incarceration, higher in drug use. And we know that a lot of these things can be remedied by allowing a family just to stay together, or children to stay with family. I see this often in my community, and also with the clients that I work with. You have a grandmother that I know who has a 30-year-old conviction, and no, you can't be a kinship provider. And to this child that's looking up at grandmom, right? That's my mom, or however you want to call it, that they already have this relationship. They already have this community. Children are born into communities. So you're telling this person, listen, you got a record from 30 years ago, although I know you love your grandbaby, you can't be a kinship provider. And to take it a step further, from no, you can't be a kinship provider, but now, no, you can't visit this child. No, you can't have contact with this child because your clearances didn't come through. Or if your husband or grandfather is in a house and he has a record and you don't, now you're put in a position to say, okay, do I tell my husband of umpteen years to leave my home so I can have my grandchild, or do we just say, no, we can't take our grandchild? That's a horrible position to put families in, and it's breaking those connections and those bonds. You know, when I was going through it, my brother, my oldest brother, God rest his soul, wanted to take my son. All three of my children went to three different places. But my oldest brother wanted to step in and take my son. And he was told no, that he couldn't take my son because he had a criminal record from the age of 16. He got arrested when he was 16. And now here he is in his 30s in a loving home. He has a son. He has a wife who is a fourth grade teacher. And they said, absolutely not. This house is counted out. We're not going to use this person as a resource. We're not going to allow your son to go into like an extremely stable home within your family. And how is that okay? I know I'm not. I tell people often I'm not the most professional person that you would meet, but I love, I love, and I love hard, and I recognize, like, if it wasn't for my family, if it wasn't for guardianship, I would have never been able to see my children again. I would be a legal stranger to my children. Even now, when I have so-called gotten everything together and stable enough to provide for my family, who makes those choices? Who gives others the right to make those choices to say your family or you will never be able to take care of your family because of a mistake that you made years ago? It's insane. But I'm going to pass it back to Angelique.
Thank you, April. Powerful words. Thank you so much for sharing them. So now we're going to invite Gisela Marquez Lee to join us and talk about her lived experience being a kinship care provider and some of the both strengths and challenges with that experience. So welcome, Gisela.
Hello, my name is Gisela Marquez Lee, and I'm in the kinship care of three grandchildren, 7, 9, and 11. Um, I recently retired, which has helped a lot to be able to be more with the kids. They originally were placed a couple of years ago with the paternal grandmother, and um, I recently gained custody or placement because unfortunately, the paternal grandmother died in August of COVID. So the children came with me, and it was a smooth transition for them because we have always been very close. Um, the whole family with me for about 6 years. And even when they moved to their own place, um, the kids, I saw the kids almost every weekend and sometimes even during the week. And sometimes I babysat for them. The reason they went to the paternal grandmother is because the day before they were placed, I broke my ribs. So anyway, um, the transition was smooth, like I said, because I was someone that they really knew. Um, and in the kinship, because of the kinship, they have been able to make contact with other relatives. I have a very strong support with my family, um, and they all have been willing to, to help out with the children. I recently became licensed as a foster parent, and for me, it was a simple process that I delayed because I was so overwhelmed. I just got licensed in December, and I had the kids since August. Um, the team with whom I was working, the foster licenser called me. She reached out to me and, asked me if I wanted to become a foster parent uh, once I already had the kids, and she facilitated the process. The person that did the home study, her administrative assistant, was so helpful to me. Um, she even guided me in some computer issues that I was having, and in the whole team really has been very helpful. Uh, right now, they are working on a permanency um, plan for the children, because they have been already with DCYF and in placement for over 2 years, almost 3 years. And so I'm not sure how has it been that they have lasted so long. But anyway, recently when they started talking about permanency, there was a question about adopting and guardianship, and they explained that to me, I think, very good, and they sent me the paperwork to see it in person. I have been working with also the Kinship Navigator through Family Education and Support Services in Olympia, and they have a support group that is extremely helpful. That we meet right now over, on Zoom because of COVID. And I actually was going to those meetings even before they were placed with me, just because we were so close. Um, anyway, it has been a great experience for me to have the children with me, and I don't know what I would have done if they had gone to a foster care unrelated to them, and I think it would have been very, very hard for them too. Um, so I think the kinship program really needs to have support from everyone. Like I said, I'm one of the lucky ones that had help through the system, and I guess that's basically my story.
Thank you, Gisela. I so appreciate that. It's helpful for us to understand not only what the issues are, but what works. And so we appreciate you helping shed some light in that area. So now we are going to hear from our young people who are joining us today. We're going to start from Rob Romero. Both of our young people today represent NFYI and are both from the great state of California.
Hello, everybody. Sorry. Okay. All right. I just wanted to say thank you, Angelique, and everyone from the NFYI organization, everyone that's helped me prepare for this briefing. I just want to say it's a great opportunity for me to just express and share my experience through kinship care and everything. Fortunately, I did have a great experience with guardianship. I started at a very young age. I was only one when my mom realized she couldn't give care to me or my siblings. There was a total of five of us. So the five of us, we moved into our aunt and uncle's place in Southgate. I was just a baby, but my brother Jose, my brother Andrew, my sister Desiree, and as well my brother Nathan, we moved in because my aunt and uncle, they understood what it's like to be lost or to be in need of care. So as they took us in at a very young age, um, they did everything they could to support us, to feed us, to just give us a home, to give us a bed. And later on down the line, they realized that they needed social workers, they needed help from the government at least, to help them care, because they were already working a job. My parents were already working a job each, at different shifts, so they needed more help than they could obviously presume. So it was very unfortunate through the process that, trying to look for that help and a need to just take care of all of us, that so the social workers were only giving them an option. We're only giving them, um, the option to keep the babies, which was me and my brother, my twin brother. So they kept us because we were 1 years old. Um, and they already had 3 kids under their house already. So I think that was the reason why they weren't able to. The social workers weren't able to at least give them everything that they needed to provide for food or even a better home or living space. So unfortunately, my siblings from blood, were separated from me when I was just a child. But I was under the roof of my aunt and uncle. I'm extremely grateful that they were able to like take us in at a young age, because they understood that, um, we needed home, we needed to be taken care of, and regardless of whatever my birth mother was, going through, they understood that, you know babies can be left out there, because they just have the warming heart. But anyways, what I learned through this process was, it was a really long process. I didn't get adopted officially, or yeah, officially, until I was 6 years old. Um, but definitely through those 6 years as a child, I kept, the social workers were helping me kind of identify everything that was going on through the process. I was always meeting up in court with, different people. Um, my parents were doing everything right at the moment, and definitely I was even meeting with my actual mother. My mother would come and visit every time, so I was very grateful to just understand everything, see everything at a very young age, being a walking testimony, to this day. And so I'm extremely grateful for my guardianship, because all through along the process, my parents have always given care for me, my twin brother. They've always, uh, gave us the option to even see, like, not even an option, but they always encouraged us to be open about even seeing our siblings, which was really hard, because as they got separated from us at a young age, we didn't know who they were or where they were. So, um, I really wish it could have, been a different way. But to this day, we still talk. We still meet. We still have lunch and everything. So it's not like I'm very ungrateful of it, but I'm very grateful to be a testimony of this experience. And I certainly do wish that, it could have been any other way. As I wish I could have at least grown up with my siblings. I wish I could have at least, stayed connected with them, or whatever, foster home they were sent to as they aged out. I definitely wish for many things like throughout this process, but I'm more than less grateful to be here today, and to, echo out to everybody that I had a great experience with guardian care. And to this day, I'm still living under my parents' roof. But I had a great experience. They definitely helped me with food. They helped me with school. They pushed for everything for us to be successful, kids. And I can definitely say I'm a successful, child under their care. But definitely just want to echo out that, you know when it comes to needing help, and an external source of help, just like for, food stamps or anything in child services. uh, I feel like it is very important to just, my parents came from Mexico, so their background was very tough to kind of, deal with when they needed a residency, first for us to be adopted. So that's why that process took a while, because the residency was, building up, and it was just so many like obstacles they had to go through. But they didn't give up. They did everything they could. So when I was 6, they changed my name, because they wanted to take me in as their own. And I'm extremely grateful that beyond that point, they did everything they could to even find our siblings. That's why to this day we're still connected with, my brother Jose, my brother Andrew, and Desiree. We're still connected because Guardian Care always took care of me. My parents, they believed that we needed an opportunity, not an opportunity from where we started, but an opportunity to elevate, as opposed to, because I don't know where I would have been now if it wasn't for them. But definitely, I'm extremely grateful that I'm given this opportunity from NFYI to share my experience for others out there that that may be going through the same thing. To definitely, like, be a testimony for them to stand up and, give them the proper freedom that they deserve and the opportunities that everyone deserves. I really, want to echo out that it is a positive experience to be given, care through anybody that is like, I'm sorry, I lost track of it. For anyone to be given the opportunity to be giving care to, an infant or anybody that is in need of it, I feel like, if they're willing to go through everything to be involved with that child, to give them a better life that they were, given from the start of their life, I feel like it's very important to understand that you can create a positive outcome out of everything. Um, but definitely just want to say thank you, NFYI again, and Angelique as well, for this opportunity. And I'll pass this on back to Angelique.
Thank you, Rob. I think you brought up such important pieces for us to really think about, and that is what can we do to support relatives and support young people in relative care to either maintain connections with their siblings, or what can we do to support kinship caregivers so that they have the resources they need to keep those siblings together. We know that is a trouble for priority, and that it needs to be a priority in both kinship care placements as well as non-relative placements. So we appreciate your sharing and highlighting that really important issue for us today. Last but not least is our other young adult who will be sharing her story with us. So without further ado, please welcome Amanda Judson. And Amanda, it looks like you are on mute.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm here on behalf of
Hi everyone, my name is Anna Judson and I'm a leader with NFYI.
Hi, hopefully everyone can hear me clear. I'm here on behalf of my sister and can everyone hear me?
For the moment, let's try our best. Go ahead, Amanda.
Would it be okay if I go ahead and call her and put her on my microphone?
I think we can try anything that works.
Okay, perfect. So as my younger sister Amanda mentioned, she's going to be speaking on behalf of her experience in kinship. It was an experience I had a very similar relationship to, but she did live with my older sister for a little bit longer. And Amanda, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just play you, and you'll be a phone. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Amanda, and you're on live.
Hi everyone, thank you for having me here today. I'm here on behalf of my sister Anna as a foster youth advocate. My experience with it, I was in a placement with my two half sisters, knowing that my biological uncle could adopt me, and I was still placed in with another family, and we ended up I ended up going into the system at 11 years old into a foster family and at the Vowels. And at age 17, my foster family, my foster dad ended up getting a promotion for work. And I ended up being placed with my biological older sister. And I was able to finish high school with her. And overall, I think it was really rewarding in my kinship bond with my sister, because she was able to help me through high school, and she was able to help me through my future and really get that bond, the really strong bond. I lived with her and I knew her my whole life. So I thought that was really important and really rewarding overall, being placed with Bethany, my sister. So that's about it.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And sorry for the Wi-Fi issues. You did great.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say? Or do you have a question, Angelique?
Oh, no, Amanda, if you have any final words, please feel free.
Yeah, is there anything else you'd like to say, Amanda, about your experience in kinship care? Or
when I was in my foster family, I think you should really advocate for fostering finding their biological parents. I think that's really important. And I wasn't able to find my biological parents, and I really think my social worker should have worked with me better on that. I think that was really important and a big part of my life, a missing piece of my life that I really wanted to find out. So other than that, no.
Thank you, Amanda. You're awesome. And you can go ahead and stick on mic, and I'm going to pass it back to Angelique. Sorry again for the tech issues.
Yeah, wonderful. But what a great visual to see, siblings supporting each other even in this moment. So we thank you both for that and supporting each other to make today's briefing work. So there's a couple important aspects of Amanda's story I just want to highlight and emphasize. And, one is that idea that, older siblings are a great support system for young people and want to encourage, the child welfare workforce that is on the call to understand and value the importance of sibling placement, not only placing siblings together, but seeking out older siblings as a potential placement opportunity. It's an invisible population when we talk about relative care, and it's an important consideration. Can I
say one more thing, Angelique? Yeah. Sorry,
yep.
I think there's also something, and I think Amanda tried to emphasize it, when she went to live with my oldest sister, and she was placed in that kinship care. It's important to consider that my older sister was in her mid-20s, and she actually wouldn't have been able to really afford it if not for the services offered by the state and by DCFS to help facilitate that placement. My oldest sister was 26 or something at the time. My youngest sister was 16 and a half. And so that's another important thing, I think, FYI. And Amanda's story highlights is that they can definitely be placed with family and see just amazingly successful outcomes. She was able to graduate from the high school she started at, which is huge for a foster youth, but not without that proper support, which I know April spoke to earlier.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you. And one other thing I want to highlight in Amanda's story that she talked about was that desire to maintain connections with birth parents. And, we have been reevaluating child welfare practice and really emphasizing this idea of co-parenting, whether it be our relative caregivers working closely with our birth parents or non-relative caregivers working with birth parents. But this idea of maintaining connections to relatives through both birth parents as well as extended family is an important thing that our lived experience voices are raising up and trying to help our professional community understand. And they're asking for support to be able to do that, maintaining connections to family. That is what we are about, and this discussion is today. So I want to thank all of our panelists for your wonderful and moving testimony today. I think that there's no better way to hear and understand what works and what doesn't work than those who are living it every day. So I also want to let all of our panelists know that we have received several questions from our audience. And I also want to take the time for those that did not submit questions in advance that there is a chat feature on our platform today. So those that are listening in, please feel free to type questions into the chat and we will try to get through as many as we can. I'll start off with the ones that we received in advance. So we had a couple questions from academic folks asking about how can social policy professors prepare students to be a part of this endeavor in their coursework. Certainly, we know that all social work students are required to take policy courses as part of their education or curricula mandate for social work programs that are under the Council of Social Work Education. And there are things we can do as professors to connect our students so that they can really see and understand, how what they're learning in the classroom applies in the community setting. By encouraging students to participate in briefings like the one today or Social Work Day on the Hill, which Charles talked about when he first did the welcome today. And engaging students in not only attending, but also planning. I'm going to give a shout out. I have a BSW student who worked with me in planning this event today. And we have students from FY and FYI who also helped and supported. So students and social work students in particular are also powerful folks that can help support these movements. And we never want to underestimate the power of students. And we want to encourage social work professors to really be creative when they're planning their curricula to engage students in these more experiential learning opportunities when they can. We know from the research that students who engage in experiential policy work are more likely to continue engaging in that policy work after graduation. I don't know if there's anything else our panelists would like to add to that point. Okay, wonderful. The next question we have here, I think is really geared towards Rob and Amanda. So I'm going to ask them to provide leadership on that role. And an audience member asked, tell us more about the impact of kinship care for a child, as a child who's had the experience of being placed. And I know, Rob, you were very young when this happened. Amanda, you were a little older. And so how was that experience for you when your worker made the decision to place you with your sibling?
I'm gonna just speak first. I'm sorry. For me at least, being placed at a very young age, me and my twin brother, it was kind of an off balance. We were very confused. We were very lost in a matter of like, why is my sibling 10 years older than me? My foster sibling. And so I always had a lot of questions that I never really strived to look for deeper answers until my parents actually opened up and they said, and they kind of explained to us everything. Why are we so confused? And they try to help us understand. Not tried, but they actually did a great job in making us understand who we are, where we're from, and what our background is. So my experience through everything, honestly, was kind of like, it was like an in-between, it was a bittersweet thing that I was able to experience, and I'm glad I really did, because I love my parents to this day, and I always respect them that, they took us in even when they had nothing, when they had barely anything to support us. They did everything they could to kind of give us a better life from what we were introduced with. So I definitely had a great experience, like I said. And I think the only thing I really struggled with was just staying connected with my siblings. I really wanted to, at least grow up with them and see what they were doing on the other side of where I was living. But other than that, I feel like through kinship, I had a great experience. I was given love. I was given a family. I was given a school and an opportunity for education. I was given so many opportunities that I just took great advantage of, and that's why I'm here today. That is the reason why, I went to college. I studied arts, and I'm an aspiring musician today. And I can very much say that I am successful, but I'm still striving to be even more successful than I am today. And this is just a milestone for me. This is the start of a milestone with an FYI, and that I intend to definitely pursue it for the future.
Yeah, due to Amanda's internet connections and also her work schedule, I'll go ahead and I think speak on her talking points, which we communicated about earlier. But her entering placement with my sister in her like senior year and junior year of high school, it allowed her to successfully complete high school where she started, which is huge. We know from the data and from many youth that they move high schools, I think on average about 7 times. So in Amanda's case, being able to successfully complete like that academic stability was huge. But more than anything, I think kinship proves that there's a mental and a personal stability from living with family. I myself lived in group homes and a lot of different foster homes. I was briefly in kinship, and even my experience, Amanda's as well, like being placed in kinship with our sister, it is a different level of like personal stability, knowing that you're with family and that they're not going to kick you out. And like, yeah, it just, it is a very calming, much more calming and like, I think steady experience is what Amanda and I have often agreed and like reflected on, is that like living with our sister when we did was just a really crucial part of like graduating high school and entering adulthood with some level of stability and family connection.
Thank you so much for sharing that. The next question I think is really geared toward Gisela and April. So we'll have you both lead the answer to this question. And that is, what are the biggest obstacles to kinship placements? And if you could recommend a policy change that could be made to facilitate a greater number of kinship placements, what would that be?
I guess I take it. Definitely those barriers from your records, first and foremost, especially in the Black and Brown community, knowing like mass incarceration and the rate of arrest in our communities. It's like virtually impossible not to have a family member that didn't touch the child welfare system, that didn't touch the carceral system. It's virtually impossible. So what I would like to see is for this bill to recognize that, or any policy to recognize the disparities within the system and say, okay, well, we know this community is at a higher risk of all of these things. Let's approach this community differently, which I would like to say. But above all, to also to like get away from this cookie cutter idea of what family is supposed to look like, or what family is, or what permanency is, or what stability is, right? Just because I can't, like Anna's story, and as she was just saying what she was saying, I'm like choking up. I've grown up in houses where you like all of us is in the same bedroom, but this is the best home ever. Like we're sleeping on the couch, but we're okay. Like to understand that not all families look the same. And just because my family don't look how your family look, that don't mean that they shouldn't have the opportunity to keep those connections, to raise up our children. We have to get away from these cookie cutter ideas of what we think kin is. You know, or you're not stable enough because grandmom got a record from the civil rights movement. Like it's insane. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Gisela, would you like to add anything there?
No, just emphasize how important it is to be placed with family if that is, fortunately, not all families have that option.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it has helped a lot with the they're at home when they're at my house, because they are, we were so close. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
we had not been placed with family, I don't know if we would have been able to visit them, and it would have been a tremendous loss for them, relatives, not only me, but other members of my family that they have been so close,
Mm-hmm.
because they all at one time or another had help. My daughter, with the much help that we can get from policymakers and from support groups. Like I said, I have been very, very fortunate. My whole team, including the current case manager for the children, we had some previously that cooperative, like the one we have now. And like I mentioned, the licensors and the courtesy visit supervisor, that because the kids live in Olympia, so they have a visiting courtesy case manager that comes once a month and check it. And he also encouraged, and thanks to their encouragement and all the help, I I got my license. At the beginning, I didn't get it because I don't know. I was just so I didn't um, feel maybe that I needed to get it, but I'm glad I did.
Mm-hmm. Apologies for going in and out, Gisela, but I
Like I
know
said,
there's an important part of your message I want to make sure everyone hears, in that, Gisela didn't jump on
yeah,
the
it's happening
license
to
right away. Yeah.
me.
Oop. We are
Hear
struggling
part
to
of it.
hear you, Gisela. Oop. So we apologize
Oh,
for
it's
the
the last question that you asked me.
yeah, that was it was just the one question. So I know that that was going in and out, but I know, some of the
Yeah,
major takeaway points I want to
the
make sure folks
also
heard
I have
from what
received.
Gisela was saying was that, she didn't jump right on the licensing. We know that placement with relatives, there's no warning. You don't prepare for that in advance like a non-relative caregiver would. So we can't assume that if folks are processing or going through the shock of this very sudden transition, that it doesn't mean they're not interested in licensure, right? So the lesson here for workers on the call is to ask early, but also ask often. We can't assume if someone wasn't ready to jump the moment you ask, that it doesn't mean they're not going to be interested in pursuing licensure. So I think that's a really important takeaway point from Gisela's story, and that we have to
Would like to mention.
acknowledge and work through that. Yep.
I also would like to mention that it has been very, very helpful to go to the support groups through Family Education and Support Services in Olympia, which has a kinship program.
Mm-hmm.
And we have meetings, wonderful. And like I said, even way before they were placed, because the kids have been in and out of DCYF, although they had never been placed. So while my daughter was going to treatment in Spokane, uh, um, she was doing great, and then things happened again and had to be referred again. So anyway, but as far as support, yes, being in kinship placement, it's a lot better than anything that could happen, I think.
Yeah. So I think we've heard from our lived experience stories to, that our folks with lived experience want our states and feds to support kinship caregivers. We are hearing today, that those placements, lead to good outcomes, but that our kinship caregivers need support to maximize the success of those placements. Gisela talked with me a little bit about her experiences with engaging in support groups and working with kinship navigators, and that support is an important part of her story in being able to maintain this long-term support for the children in her home. So just raising that up about the need for these wraparound support services for our families is critical to ensure that these relative placements can be successful. And I know I have many more questions, but I'm Charles, I'm going to do a time check with you. I'm assuming we're over time, but I just want to verify.
You're muted.
You're on mute, Charles.
Yes, we are over time, but it's been a really wonderful discussion and hearing all the experiences that foster youth have to go through, and not only the challenges, but some of the things that worked out for you.
Mm-hmm. So this is such a powerful program with so many wonderful lived experience voices. I just want to take the time to thank each and one of our presenters. I think this is a unique experience for folks to listen in on. Also want to remind folks who joined us late that there is a URL going across your screen from CRISP that has some additional resources to supplement the lived experience voices that you heard today, 2 additional documents that have been put together to support all of you advocates on the phone with your advocacy work. I know that CRISP will be, highlighting and showcasing this bill when it comes out so that you all can see it. And we're asking for all of you to be on the lookout for that and to be in touch with your elected officials and encourage them to support Karen Bass in moving this important piece of legislation forward. And we want to encourage all of our academics who are listening in to really encourage your students and help them understand that in addition to the learnings in the university community they're in, they also live and work through field placements or full-time work in communities, and that we need their voices and support in this work too. Our lived experience folks can't advocate on their own. We need our professional allies to support us in this work as well. So we just want to thank everyone who took the time to log in and hear this briefing today, and that there will be additional resources and support. So we encourage you to please sign up for CRISP's really important listserv. And I'm hoping, Charles, you can take just a few minutes to help people understand how to do that so they can continue being connected to this conversation.
Sure. The best way to stay connected is to be go on our website. You can sign up for our listserv. And for those who did get the beginning of the program, it will be recorded, and you can find it on our website. So please go to our website and stay in touch. We thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.